From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine. On Wednesday night, you can see we have a full house tonight, talking all about metro schools. We encourage you to call in with any questions you may have. There's the number 737 plus 737-7587. Good panel up here. Dr. Jesse Register, thank you for being with us.
It's good to be here again.
Once again, Dr. Adrian Battle-Koger, the principal at Antioch High School. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And you have some big news and good news to share. We want to hear all about that. And Fred Carr, a veteran of this show also. You were here last time. Thank you, Fred Carr, for being here, Chief Operating Officer for Metro Schools. I want to ask you a few questions first, Dr. Sure. First of all, schools have started just here in the last couple of weeks. What do you think? How are things going right now?
Things are going very well. We've had a good start. We've had some challenges this year, though. Fred is probably more appropriate to talk about one than I am. But we had the tanker spill in West Nashville that created havoc. We had to lock down 5 schools last week, and you know, a few challenges like that. We had an unfortunate accidental death of a student down at Cane Ridge High School, which is always very tough right at the beginning of school for that to happen. And but other than that, it's been a very smooth opening. Very not very many incidents of any kind that are real problems. We opened our 3 new model preschool pre-K model centers, just opening now. They were a little delayed getting open because of construction and so forth, but we're very excited about those and have had a good start.
Since you were last on, there's been a metro election, new school board, new members put on the school board. One of the big decisions that school board will make involves you, and your contract is coming to a close within the next year. Where are you on that? Well, if this board wants you to stay, do you want to stay?
Well, I think it's a little premature to say that. The new board's not in place yet. They're being sworn in now. You know, they'll be sworn in right after the 1st of September. And what I've said all along is, you know, I've never expected to go beyond the present contract. That's June 30th of next year, but would entertain that if all the conditions were right. And I think that it's still very premature for me to say yes or no, and it's not my decision alone. It's what's the fit like, and what's the wish of the new board, and we'll be talking about that over the next few weeks.
And you called for civility since you were last here, talked in front of the Metro Council. You see the makeup of the board. I saw it described as there are 3 factions. I don't know if that, but I saw that in the paper. There are 3 factions, part of it charter school, you know, older members, those less inclined toward charter school. What do you think about the makeup of the new board?
Well, the new board's diverse. They're extremes, and there's a middle ground, and I think I would describe it that way, is that you've got board members who sit on a continuum in terms of opinions about charter schools, but about other issues too. And I think the real challenge for the new board, and I think one that they're very capable of dealing with, is coming together and developing a common voice and having a consensus. I think that's very important, and the election of a new chairman is very important, someone who can pull the group together. Cheryl Mays did not get reelected, but her term was up as chair anyway, so she had to come off. There has to be a new chair. And having someone that can solidify the group, pull the group together, I think is very important for the school system and for the community. And so we'll see how things go over the next few weeks.
You did call for civility. You said there were going to be some regular meetings. You wanted to get past some of the divisive talk that was going on. How is that going since you called for that?
It's gone very well. It's a no holds barred meeting. We've had 2 of the regular meetings, pretty much establishing ground rules. Fred's on that committee on our side. There are about 18 people in all involved in the committee meetings, and that's from a charter school perspective and from the general public school position. Justin Testerman, who's executive director of the Tennessee Charter Collaborative, and I co-chair the meeting. And I think it's very important that we improve collaboration. From my perspective as the director of schools or the superintendent here, this year I'm going to have 19 charter schools to work with, and they're public schools and they're receiving our funding, and there's a relationship there that needs to be built, and it needs to be a constructive relationship and a constructive conversation. Doesn't mean that there are not going to be disagreements and problems that come up, but the way to solve those problems, pardon me for saying this, is not in the media. It's for people to get together and collaborate. We cannot communicate via the media, which is what's happened. And I think over the last year, there's been a downward spiral of I'll say animosity or rock throwing or whatever you want to call it. But I think that's caused us not to have any winners. And we need to get to a higher level of discussion. What we need to be about is having quality public schools, quality programs for all of our children, including yours, and everyone else who's in a public school of choice or a zone public school in Davidson County, and they deserve better than an adversarial relationship among those of us who are providing public education. And so I hope we can get there. And I feel very confident that the board can come together over the coming months. We had 2 incumbents return. Anna Shepard, Joanne Brannon, Dr. Brannon returned, and 2 new members elected, Thais Hunter and Mary Pierce, joining the other board members, and had very, very positive, very good conversations with the newly elected board members. And of course, those incumbents who are returning will continue to be great board members. So I'm optimistic about the future.
And so when you say not in the media, I'm sure people would think that makes sense. Does that mean there are meetings? I mean, I think that was part of what you said, to have private meetings. We need to come around the same table and just have discussions. Is that happening, and do you feel like that? Is that what you meant? Yes,
it is. And of course there are no elected officials in the room. It's not an open meeting from that standpoint, but it's not secret either. We agree on minutes coming out of the meeting. We agree to communicate what comes out of the meetings. But what we really want to do is have a no-holds-barred conversation about day-to-day problems, but also about the big issues that we face. How do we grow schools in Davidson County? We might hit 85,000 students this fall. We're past 83,000 already and still growing very quickly, and it's very early. Our numbers don't settle for another few weeks. So we could approach 85,000. Over the next 10 years or so, we're projected to have 95 to 100,000 students. How do we grow those? And what happens in Adrian's community, huge growth, and I know you're up 200 or 300 students, I believe, this year at Antioch High School. In other parts of the community, we have some underutilized buildings, and how we manage that growth, how we bring on additional charter schools, how they add value to what's going on in the public school system is a really important conversation. What is the fiscal impact of adding additional schools? And we've commissioned a study by MGT Incorporated. The Metro Council is having a performance audit conducted, and I understand we're just beginning to get a first draft of that in the office. Maybe this week. I haven't seen it yet. The Comptroller of Tennessee is doing a study, and the Charter School Collaborative is considering that. So that's 4 studies on fiscal impact. That should give us different points of view, different analyses, if you will, but a good wealth of knowledge to really understand what fiscal impact is, so we can have constructive conversations with Metro Council, with the mayor, with the present mayor, with the next mayor, with the state, about and most importantly, with our community. What can we as a community afford? What makes sense for us? What does our community want? So that there is a very important need for a common vision, common communication in Davidson County about where public education in this county is headed. and I think that's the work that's most important going over the next couple of years.
And one other thing before we broaden the discussion, we'll take a break, then broaden the discussion. Priority schools. There was a jump in the number of priority schools. It was 6 in 2012, I believe. Now it's 15. It more than doubled. These are the lowest performing schools. Why do you think that happened, and what needs to be done?
Well, it happened because the bottom. There's always going to be a bottom 5%. Most of our schools showed growth. They didn't grow as fast as some other schools in the state. There was a clump of schools hovering on that bottom 5%, and we lost ground to some schools there. That's not a good thing. Actually, the number is 14. We've already closed one. We closed 2 charter schools last year. We've closed 2 other public schools last year. We've converted John Ross, which was in the bottom 5%, to a pre-K center, which is one of our model centers right now. But we've got to take a really hard look at what's going on in those schools, and I think it starts with quality teaching and leadership in the schools, and I probably should have put the second one first. You've got to have good leaders in schools to have good schools. And so we're going to examine very closely our teachers and our leaders in those schools, what's their performance like. We're also going to look at the support systems that we provide. What are we doing to help those schools with turnaround strategies? Are we providing enough support for those schools? An example that reaches all across the district is weighted student funding formulas. Are we really putting the resources in those schools that they need to be successful? And there's a good bit of work going on with that now in the district to look at a weighted student funding formula, which we hope to roll out this year. But we'll take very aggressive action moving forward. It is not acceptable for the numbers to increase, and we've got to work on those. I want to speak to the other side of that, though. Our results are not all bad this year. Our results are mixed. Thursday, tomorrow, there'll be a new list of reward schools. That's the top end, and our number increases there. And I'll break the embargo by
This is embargoed.
that Antioch High School is a zoned high school that is a reward school in Tennessee, and that's terrific.
That's a remarkable accomplishment.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk. I want to talk about that, and I think maybe that's one reason you're here, and I'm glad that you are here.
And so we have good news, and we have mixed news this year. We've made good progress. Our ACT scores went up 0.2 of a point. That's a big jump. That's the most jump we've seen in 1 year. The state went up 3/10 of a point. We went up 0.2 of a point, not quite as much as the state, but 0.2 of a point is very significant when our number's been moving up every year. So good news, and issues that we have to deal with.
All right, we're going to take a break. If you're on the line, hold on. We will get to your call. We'll take a break, come back, and hear from you and continue the discussion. We'll be back right after this.